Your fuel bill is probably higher than it should be, and it is probably not because your car got old. Most drivers assume saving serious money at the pump means buying a new vehicle, paying for premium gas, or falling for some little gadget that promises miracle MPG. The real problem is usually much more ordinary than that, and that is exactly why it gets missed. Late braking, unstable speed, too much idling, low tire pressure, extra drag, extra weight. Small habits that feel normal can quietly drain your tank faster every single week. And if you keep ignoring them, you do not just waste fuel, you waste money on a problem that often has a much cheaper fix than people think. The good news is you do not need a new car. You do not need expensive parts. You just need to understand what actually matters and which driving habits are silently burning the most fuel right now. Quick disclaimer before we start, the tips and guides in this video are for educational purposes only. Every vehicle is different, so please use this information at your own risk. We are not responsible for any damage or injury that may occur. When in doubt, always consult a professional mechanic. Here is the belief that keeps a lot of drivers stuck. If you want to save real money on fuel, you need to buy something. A newer car, a miracle gadget, premium gas, maybe some expensive efficiency service the next time you visit a shop. And if you are not driving fast, you assume you are already doing fine. That is the trap. Most fuel waste does not come from one dramatic mistake. It comes from a pattern that feels completely normal. Late reactions, unnecessary braking, unstable speed, pointless idling, and small habits repeated every day. That is why people miss it. The car still runs. Nothing feels obviously broken. So the blame gets pushed onto the car, the fuel, or the price at the pump. And to be fair, most drivers were never taught any different. In Japan, fuel-saving driving habits became part of a broader energy conservation mindset after the oil shocks of the 1970s. In the US, most people got a different message. Drive normally, buy the right products, and only think about efficiency when gas gets expensive. But aggressive inputs and stop-and-go behavior can cut gas mileage hard, even when the driver thinks they are just driving normally. The real issue is how energy gets wasted between the throttle and the brake. And once you see that clearly, the whole fuel problem starts to make sense. Here's what's actually happening. Your car does not burn the same amount of fuel every second just because the engine is running. Fuel use spikes when the engine has to do extra work, building speed, fighting drag, pushing extra weight, overcoming soft tires, and sitting there idling while going nowhere. That is the part most drivers never picture clearly. They think fuel economy is mostly about the car. In reality, a huge part of it is about how often you force the car to waste energy. Japanese eco-driving guidance has long emphasized gentle starts, steady speed, early liftoff, and avoiding unnecessary idling for exactly this reason. Think of it like this. Every time you press the throttle, you are paying to create motion. Every time you brake late, a lot of that paid-for motion gets dumped out as heat instead of distance traveled. Then you have to buy that motion again with more fuel. Add in low tire pressure, roof racks, trunk clutter, and constant lane switching, and now the engine has to work even harder just to give you the same trip. That is why aggressive driving can crush fuel economy, why roof accessories hurt more at highway speed, and why idling for more than a few seconds is usually pure waste. So the chain reaction looks like this. Late reaction leads to harder braking, which leads to more reacceleration, which leads to more fuel burned, which leads to a driver thinking the car has a fuel problem, when the real issue is often a driving pattern problem first. And that is exactly why this gets expensive faster than people think. And this is why it gets expensive fast. Not because one giant failure suddenly appears, but because fuel waste stacks up in small, boring ways that feel harmless in the moment. Aggressive acceleration, late braking, unstable speed, and stop-and-go reactions can cut gas mileage by roughly 10% to 40% in city-style traffic and 15% to 30% at highway speeds. That is not a tiny difference. That is the difference between a car that feels merely a little thirsty and one that quietly drains your wallet every single month. Then, the smaller leaks pile on. Idling gets you 0 miles per gallon. And federal fuel economy guidance says excessive idling can burn about 1/4 to 1/2 gallon per hour, with a rough cost of about 1 cent to 2 cents per minute. And if you are also paying for premium gas in a car designed for regular, AAA says you are spending more for no real benefit. This is how a behavior problem turns into a money problem. Drivers blame the car, the pump, or the gas station when the most expensive part was often the daily habit that never got corrected in the first place. But the part most people miss is this: the biggest fuel savings usually do not come from one magic trick. They come from stacking small wins in the right order. Not buying better gas, not chasing miracle products, not driving painfully slow and annoying everyone around you. The real savings come from learning how to product momentum, stop turning fuel into wasted heat, and fix the few cheap things that quietly make every mile more expensive. That is where this stops being random advice and starts becoming a system. So let's break down the Japanese method the right way, from the driving habit that saves fuel first to the maintenance mistakes that waste it in the background. First, look farther ahead than most drivers do. This sounds almost too simple, but it is one of the biggest separators between a driver who protects fuel and a driver who burns it without noticing. Japanese eco-driving guidance has long pushed the same core idea. Anticipate traffic, avoid unnecessary braking, and drive with margin instead of reaction. In practice, that means you stop staring only at the bumper in front of you and start reading the road earlier. Brake lights ahead, traffic signals, merging patterns, slowing traffic 3 or 4 cars up. Why does that matter? Because the earlier you see a slowdown, the earlier you can lift off the throttle instead of staying in it until the last second and then braking hard. Most drivers do the opposite. They stay on the gas too long, brake too late, then have to accelerate again. That is the exact cycle that turns fuel into waste. The correct action is simple. Back off earlier, leave more following distance, and let the car coast whenever traffic allows. That is not slow driving. That is smart driving. And the payoff is immediate. Fewer brake applications, fewer re-acceleration spikes, and less fuel burned just to keep fixing your own late reactions. Second, protect momentum. This is where a lot of people get it wrong. They think fuel economy is just about driving slowly. It is not. It is about avoiding constant changes in speed that force the engine to keep rebuilding motion from scratch. Official fuel economy guidance is very clear. Aggressive driving, rapid acceleration, and hard braking can hit gas mileage hard, especially in stop-and-go traffic. The mistake people make is constant micro-corrections, speeding up to close a gap, braking because they got there too fast, jumping lanes, then doing it all again. On the highway, it is the same problem in a smoother disguise. Tiny throttle stabs, unnecessary speed swings, and driving faster than needed. Fueleconomy.gov notes that gas mileage usually drops quickly above 50 miles per hour, and even slowing down a little can produce meaningful savings. So the right move is to pick a calmer pace, hold a steadier speed, and stop treating every small opening in traffic like an opportunity. This is exactly where people overestimate the value of lane switching. You might save a minute or two, but if every lane change requires a burst of throttle and then another brake application, you are paying for that faster drive in fuel. That is the surface level fix. Now, here is where the real savings happen. Third, accelerate with purpose, not fear. One of the most persistent myths in fuel economy is that extremely slow acceleration always saves gas. Not necessarily. Japanese eco-driving guidance emphasizes gentle starts, but gentle does not mean dragging the car forever through its least efficient phase. The engine uses extra fuel when building speed, so the goal is not to stretch that phase out for as long as possible. The goal is to get up to a sensible cruising speed smoothly and efficiently, then reduce throttle and maintain momentum. Most drivers make one of two mistakes here. They either launch too hard, or they baby the throttle so much that the car lingers in an inefficient state, and the traffic around them starts forcing even more speed corrections. The better move is progressive acceleration, clean, smooth, deliberate, not aggressive, not sleepy. Just enough to get the vehicle settled and then keep it there. On automatics, smooth throttle usually helps the transmission upshift sooner. On manuals, short shifting and keeping the engine relaxed can help the same way. This matters more than people think, because every sloppy launch sets up the next wasteful moment. Catch this early, and behavior change alone can move the needle. Ignore it, and you end up blaming the car for what is often a right foot problem first. Fourth, cut. The silent resistance. The stuff that makes the engine work harder even when your driving feels normal. This is where the cheap tests come in, and this is where people often miss easy money. Start with tire pressure. Fulleconomy.gov says properly inflated tires can improve gas mileage by about 0.6% on average, and up to 3% in some cases. Underinflated tires can lower mileage by about 0.2% for every 1 pounds per square inch drop in average tire pressure. That means a free air check can literally save fuel. So before you buy anything, check pressures when the tires are cold and set them to the door jamb spec, not the number on the tire sidewall. Then open the trunk and remove the junk you have been carrying around for months. Fueleconomy.gov estimates that an extra 100 pounds can reduce MPG by about 1%, especially on smaller vehicles. And if you have a roof rack, cargo box, or bike mount on the car when you are not using it, take it off. A blunt rooftop cargo box can cut fuel economy by roughly 6% to 17% on the highway and 10% to 25% at interstate speeds. This is the kind of loss people feel at the pump, but almost never trace back to the cause. No warning light, no dramatic symptom, just more drag, more load, more fuel. Fifth, stop the background waste before anyone sells you the wrong fix. This is where people get upsold. A driver notices the tank seems to empty faster. Suddenly, they are being sold premium gas, injector cleaners, mystery additives, maybe even parts, when the cheap checks were never done first. Start with idling. Fueleconomy.gov says idling can use about a quarter to a half gallon per hour, depending on engine size and AC use, and that any shutdown longer than about a minute usually saves fuel on modern vehicles. So if you are waiting, parked, or sitting longer than that, shut it off. Next, use airflow intelligently. DOE guidance says the rule of thumb is windows down at lower speeds, AC at highway speeds, because open windows increase aerodynamic drag more as speed rises. Then there is the premium gas myth. AAA found that for vehicles that only recommend premium, the modest fuel economy gains often do not offset the higher cost. And for cars designed for regular, using premium usually means paying more for little or no real benefit. That is classic waste disguised as taking care of the car. And one more nuance almost nobody explains clearly. On most modern fuel-injected gasoline cars, replacing a clogged air filter usually improves performance, but not MPG. So if someone tries to sell you an air filter as the main reason your fuel economy dropped on a modern car, be careful. Before you spend money, do the cheap stuff first. Reduce idling, fix your driving pattern, check tire pressure, remove drag, and use the fuel your owner's manual calls for. That is how you cut waste without getting sold the wrong story. Up to this point, you have seen the big picture. The fastest fuel savings usually come from driving habits first, and from fixing the cheap background waste before you start spending money in the wrong places. But here's the part that decides whether this method gives you a small improvement or a major one. Knowing the difference between normal fuel waste and a car that has already moved past the easy fix stage. Japanese eco-driving guidance works best when you actually change the way the car is being driven. And federal fuel economy guidance agrees that behavior can move MPG in a real way. But none of that helps if you miss the myths, the limits, and the signs that something more serious is already going on. Now, let's clear up the myths that make people waste money even when they are trying to save it. Myth number 1, driving painfully slow is the answer. Not exactly. The goal is smooth, not miserable. Fuel economy usually improves when you avoid hard acceleration, hold a steadier speed, and stop wasting momentum, but that does not mean crawling everywhere or creating unsafe traffic situations. Myth number 2, some aftermarket gadget, additive, or fuel saver will do the hard work for you. DOE has been blunt about this for years. Outside of legitimate certified conversions, these devices and additives generally do not dramatically improve fuel economy, and some can even cause problems. So if your plan starts with buying a miracle product before changing obvious wasteful habits, you are probably starting in the wrong place. Myth number 3, premium gas is the smart upgrade for any car. It is not. Unless your vehicle requires premium, DOE says you will probably see no benefit over regular, and AAA found that even for vehicles that only recommend premium, the modest gains often do not offset the higher price. Myth number 4. A dirty air filter is always the hidden reason your MPG dropped. That used to be much more true on older carbureted engines. On modern fuel-injected cars, DOE says changing a clogged air filter usually improves performance, not fuel economy. That is important because this is exactly where people get sold the wrong fix. So when does this Japanese method work best? It works best when the loss comes from habits: late braking, unnecessary idling, unstable speed, excess drag, excess weight, and basic neglect like low tire pressure. It helps a little when outside conditions are fighting you: cold weather, lots of short trips, heavy AC use, or mostly highway driving where speed itself becomes the problem. But it will not fix the car anymore if your fuel economy drops suddenly, a check engine light shows up, or the vehicle has an actual fault like dragging brakes, transmission problems, sensor issues, fuel system leaks, or other mechanical trouble. EPA says that when fuel economy is excessively low, the vehicle may need to be serviced or repaired. That is the line between a behavior problem and a car problem. So here is the decision framework that actually helps. Fix now. If your fuel economy drops suddenly, the car feels different, or you get a check engine light. That is the line where this stops being just a driving habit issue. If MPG falls off sharply for no clear reason, if the engine is running rough, if the car smells like fuel, or if a warning light shows up, do not keep chasing eco-driving tricks and hoping it sorts itself out. EPA guidance is clear that excessively low fuel economy can mean the vehicle needs service or repair. Your move here is simple. Check the obvious cheap stuff first. Fuel cap fully tightened, tire pressure correct, no roof gear left on, no massive trunk clutter, and if the problem is still there, get the car diagnosed. Monitor if the car still runs normally, but your tank seems to empty faster over time and the drop is gradual, not dramatic. That usually points to behavior plus background waste. More idling, shorter trips, colder weather, higher speeds, softer tires, more weight, more drag. This is exactly where the Japanese eco-driving mindset works best. Drive more smoothly, anticipate traffic earlier, hold steadier speed, cut idle time and track results over 2 to 3 tanks, not one fill-up. Japanese eco-driving guidance specifically emphasizes smoother acceleration, steady speed, and less unnecessary idling because those habits add up over time. Ignore for now, or at least don't spend yet if the problem is really just marketing noise or panic. Do not rush out to buy premium gas your car does not need. Do not buy a miracle fuel-saving gadget. Do not approve random upsells just because someone says your MPG could be better. If the car drives normally, there are no warning lights, and you have not even done the free checks yet, you are not at the expensive stage. You are still at the awareness stage. That means fix the habits first, verify the basics, then recheck. Spend money only after the cheap decisions, stop moving the number. First, reset the free stuff. Check tire pressure when the tires are cold, remove junk from the trunk, take off the roof rack or bike mount if you are not using it, and tighten the fuel cap until it clicks. Those are the cheapest fuel-saving moves in this entire video, and they matter because rolling resistance, drag, and small background losses add up faster than people think. Japanese eco-driving guidance also starts with the same mindset. Fix waste at the source, then drive more smoothly. Then, change the way you drive for the next 2 TO3 tanks. Look farther ahead, lift off the throttle earlier, accelerate smoothly but purposefully, and stop making every gap in traffic your personal mission. Hold a steadier speed, especially on the highway, because smoother traffic flow and steadier inputs are core eco-driving principles in Japan. If you are parked or waiting, shut the engine off when it makes sense instead of idling. Recheck your results after a few tanks, not after one fill-up, because weather, traffic, and trip length can distort a single number. Don't buy premium fuel, miracle additives, or random upsells before you fix the obvious behavior waste. Only move to the expensive option if your fuel economy drops suddenly, the car runs differently, or a warning light shows up. That is when you stop optimizing habits and start diagnosing a real problem. And that is really the bigger payoff here. Expensive car problems often do not begin as dramatic failures. They begin as small, ordinary wastes that nobody bothered to notice. early, a little extra drag, a little extra idling, a little too much braking, a little too much throttle, a few habits repeated every week until the fuel bill starts feeling normal. It is not normal, it is just familiar. The good news is you do not need to become a mechanic to fix that. You just need to become a driver who understands priority. A driver who knows what matters first, what can wait, and what is just noise, designed to make people spend more than they need to. That is the whole point of this channel. Spend less, fix smarter, avoid preventable waste, avoid preventable damage, and keep your car longer by understanding the simple things most people ignore first. For more practical car care that helps you spend less and drive smarter, subscribe. And watch the Japanese method to cut your fuel bill by 30% every month next, because it pairs perfectly with what you learned here and shows you how to keep saving at the pump every single month. Every script, edit, and voiceover on this channel is crafted with real human expertise, not mass-produced content. If this helped you, subscribe for more.